Hi, I'm James Hamilton from Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal, and this is a featherboard. Featherboards are handy little devices with flexible fingers that apply lateral or sometimes downward pressure on a workpiece, keeping it flat on top of the machine and against the fence as you feed it through a router table or a table saw. Now that may sound pretty simple, but I find that even some veteran woodworkers misunderstand the purpose of featherboards or even misuse them. So before clicking away thinking I already know everything about featherboards, please hear me out. For one thing, most featherboards are not primarily designed as safety devices. They're designed to improve the quality of your work by preventing a workpiece from drifting away from the fence during the cut, which can lead to scorching or uneven cuts. Of course, since one of the main causes of kickback at the table saw is a workpiece turning into the blade and pinching between it and the fence, a featherboard can reduce the chance of a kickback happening by keeping your workpiece straight. But don't think that slapping a featherboard on top of your table saw is a fail-safe. For one thing, a featherboard positioned like this against the edge of the workpiece only holds it at table saw level, but kickback doesn't always throw the workpiece straight backwards. The rising teeth on the back of your saw blade can lift the end of your board up, flipping it back toward you and potentially wrenching it free from a featherboard mounted flat on the table like this. So the solution is to install a second featherboard on your fence with some clamps facing downward. This will apply downward force that will keep the workpiece from rising up. This works well as long as you aren't ripping narrow stock when the featherboard might get in the way of your push block. But there's still a weakness in the system. With most featherboards, unless you put so much pressure against the edge of your workpiece that it becomes difficult to push the workpiece forward through the cut, you'll be able to pull it by hand backwards against the fingers with little trouble. And if you can move it backwards, a powerful kickback that can potentially shoot a board through drywall can certainly overcome the holding power of a traditional featherboard. There are some companies that have set out to solve this problem. Some make rollers like these. I use these on my router table. They're made by Jessam. These only spin in one direction, so they exert downward pressure and they prevent a workpiece from shooting backwards. Other companies make rollers that go on your table saw fence as well, but they're pretty pricey. A less expensive and really one of the most clever ideas I've seen in quite a while is this featherboard, which has these dense foam fingers with this special shape on them. They call it the Featherboard Pro. The fingers are designed to hinge backwards and lock together when a workpiece tries to move against them. The spaces between the fingers close and the tips act as brakes. They claim this provides 5 times greater resistance to kickback, and it's clear that they hold pretty well. If you apply 2 of these, one to apply lateral pressure against the edge of your board, and another one to exert downward pressure to keep it on top of the table, I think you have the best kickback protection that a featherboard can offer. But like I said, preventing kickback isn't really the primary function of a featherboard. It's more about keeping your cuts straight and even. And to do that, you have to know how to use them properly. Recently, I saw a video from a major woodworking magazine that I thought just gave terrible advice about featherboards.
You'll position the featherboard to hit the side of the board and cover about half the length of the blade that's exposed.
I had to listen to that again because it makes no sense to me. If you put pressure on a workpiece when it's next to the blade, you risk pinching the kerf closed on the blade, which is a primary cause of kickback. I was always taught to put the featherboard just in front of the blade, never on the outfeet side, and never next to the blade where it could close that kerf up. Maybe you were taught that other method, but I do not recommend it. Of course, that applies to the table saw. At the router table, you're free to put featherboards on both sides of the bit, but again, not directly next to it, because you would never want to apply pressure against a spinning cutter, no matter what machine it's on. Finally, don't forget that you can stack featherboards to help guide larger panels on edge, both at the table saw and the router table. This is one of their most useful applications. You can make your own featherboards, but you have to find a way to clamp them down, and that can sometimes be a challenge. That's why I prefer to buy them because they usually come with these clamping mechanisms that'll go in your miter tracks, or you can take these off and use T-bolts to put them in T-slots, making them very versatile. You can also buy magnetic featherboards. They can attach anywhere on a cast iron surface. I'll put some links to my favorites in the notes below this video. Just click on Show More if you're on YouTube. If you understand how to use them properly, featherboards can be essential woodworking accessories. I hope this video has helped. Rockler Woodworking and Hardware is simply a great company. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to support the online woodworking community and to help preserve this craft we love for future generations. I hope you return the favor by visiting their website using the link below this video. Wait, don't go yet. If you're new here, please subscribe and remember to ring the bell. I would really appreciate that. Give us a thumbs up, or better yet, leave us a comment. I always read them. And be sure to check out the latest issue of Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal. It's always packed with tips, tricks, and tutorials designed to make you a better woodworker.